Okay, YouTube fans, this is my second and only to the first YouTube video for the Stoke's grill. And if you recall from my first one and only one that I was going to clean this thing better, so we're going to take it apart and I'll show you how to take it apart and put it back together. I've done it 4 times now, so I think I got it down. A lot of times I run out of time, so I'm going to jump right into it. So I'm going to remove the kettle, these clips, and the tools you're going to need, is a wrench, needle nose pliers, a T20 star wrench, and Scotch-Brite. Some simple green or purple power, similar product, or Dawn dishwashing soap eventually. So I'll remove the kettle. So there. Now I'm going to remove the most fragile part of this thing, is the spark plug. A little arcing device here that runs off of the push button. So we're going to move that next. And if you'll notice, there is a little star here, and there's a nut and lock washer. Bolt and nut and lock washer. All the bolts that we're removing are all the same size, so they're interchangeable. They're all T20. But the spark plug one is the only one that has a lock washer. All the rest are just a bolt and nut. So I'm going to remove this. A view from the underside. Jeepers. Sorry about that. I just out of practice, I guess. Right here is the nut and lock washer. And then I'm going to remove from here with my needle nose. I'm going to grab it here and pull out the electrode, and then with this nut I'm going to use the wrench, crack open that and rotate it off, and then pull out the starter button. So that's what we'll do next. Okay, so I've removed the spark plug, I'm calling it, starter button, the nut that holds the starter button, and the bolt nut and lock washer that holds the starter and there. So let's see. Next we will remove this. This is the turning valve. Well, I guess the first thing we have to do is remove this. This would be second after the spark plug and wire just unscrews. Now when you remove this nut, be sure not to, it's a very shallow nut, so you can slip off it and rake across these threads and you will ruin these threads, so be very, very, very careful. I had to kind of get after it a little bit. So when you do that, do not use this as a lever. Sometimes we're going to have to eventually move this. I had this loose before and I was tempted to use this as a lever, but it's just an empty tube of brass, and it will kink and you will be out of business. So if you're going to hold it anywhere, hold it at the stem here, just grab a hold of it, and then when you have it laying on its side, you can remove this nut. So I'm going to remove the nut. So the nut's removed. Next step is to remove these bolts. And there are nuts that are in a little pocket. They're a hex pocket that the nuts sit in. So take your T20 star wrench and back them all out there. I'm going to do that now. Okay, you'll notice that every time I take a nut and bolt off, I'll put them together so they don't, and then have yourself some kind of tray. Could be coffee can, lid, anything. Keep your small parts in one place. Alright, now this should lift right out of here. Next is to remove the hitch pins. Look like a trailer hitch pins, but they're miniaturized. There's 3 of them. And this holds the ring. There you go. So, I've got the pins put away in the small parts bin. Now as you lift up on it, the ring and the pan that I was after lifts off. This is how it normally would go. These little, I didn't even realize that this was a pan until I got to this far. You can see where the spark plug goes, and these things recess in here because those are raised up and they drop right into place. See? Then what I did, got some hot, this way underneath here wasn't bad, so I used the simple green and just wiped it out. But this is kind of flimsy. You can kink it, and I had to use the Scotch-Brite. I tried kind of like an SOS pad. It was too fine. It didn't cut the grease that I had around here. And I even had to take a little knife and just kind of work this, gradually work this stuff out. I didn't get everything, but it did a lot better than the previous video. And I kept this out of the water. I submerged this in and out of the water, and I'd scrub on it, submerge it, scrub on it. And it did a really good job, I thought. You can see it's already starting to rust from, because it's just raw metal. Scotch-Brite. They have a silver one and they have a copper one. Why I chose copper, I don't know. I guess I like shiny things. Anyway. Now I also washed my flash pan knowing that it was going to scratch. I always went from the center out as I cleaned this, so being that this thing channels grease down, my finger's a little wet, I thought if any scratches were going to be done, it would help in the future with draining the grease off of the cone and into the trough, and because that's how that thing works. Alright, so that's how you take it all apart, and now I show you how to put it back together. So, got those little bolts in. Now we're going to flip it over and put the nut on. So I got the nut on, just got it on hand tight. Remember, if you do reef down on it, do not use the brass starter gauge, I keep calling it a gauge, valve, that tube. Do not use it as a lever. And you don't need to tighten, finger tight's probably tight enough. I'm just going to be careful not to rake over the threads. I'm going to put the burner on now. I tried it after the spark plug and it I almost broke the spark plug, so do the burner now. Hand tight is good enough. And now we will flip it over and put the spark plug on. Actually, I'll turn it on its side. It would be easier to put the spark plug on. Now this starter is the only one that has the lock washer. And use your needle nose and your star screwdriver on the other side to really tighten it down. Next we need to do is put in the starter so we can plug this electrode into it. So the starter just drops in. You notice you got a hollow nut. Put the hollow part facing the center of the grill and just thread it up there. Takes two hands, so I'm going to do it right now. Okay, so plastic threads on the starter, so when you tighten this nut, just give it like a 1/8 of a turn is plenty. Take your needle nose and plug the electrode back in, just kind of get it started, and then get the needle nose and push it in. You'll feel it bottom out. So I'm going to do, so you can see when it's pushed in, it has just a little bit of that shoulder left. It slides in probably 1/8 of an inch. Okay. Remember from if you've watched my other videos, you put the kettle on, you put the valve on the front, weep hole in the back. The weep hole is right there. Valves on the front. Just lays right into place. And of course these clips go in. And that's done. Then of course this little fin right here fits right on this is the only stand that has this little fin. It's at 4 o'clock. This is at the bottom of the hour, 4 o'clock, has that little fin. It fits into that. So I'm going to do that real quick. Then the grill and the lid, and you're done. Hope that helped you. It's ready to go for another season. Thank you very much. Hope that helped you out. Bye bye.